The test of love, when a guy decided to test his girlfriend's loyalty, but instead her mother came with a truth that changed everything. You ever have one of those moments where your gut's yelling louder than your brain, but you go with the brain anyway? That's how this whole mess started. His name was Ricky. 23, smart kid, real pretty face, the kind that could make trouble look like a good time. Grew up a couple towns over, worked at his uncle's auto shop since high school. Grease-stained hands, sly grin, but a soft spot for stray dogs and Sunday gospel. You wouldn't peg him as paranoid, not at first glance. But Ricky had a chip on his shoulder about loyalty. Said too many folks in his life played pretend until it was time to take sides. Then came Dana. She was 2 years older, fresh out of college, waiting tables at the Rusty Barrel. Blonde streaks in her ponytail, that slow kind of smile that made men forget what they were mad about. She had a way of talking that made everything sound like a secret. Like if you stuck around long enough, she'd tell you what was behind that curtain of hers. They'd been dating almost a year. Folks in town saw them together at the gas station, the diner, the lake. Always looked happy enough. But Ricky, he started getting this itch, like something wasn't adding up. Late texts, long silences, laughter that didn't reach her eyes. So he did what any young man full of doubt and pride might do. He set a trap. "I just want to know she's real," he told me one night, sitting on the tailgate of my truck, nursing a bottle of Shiner. "I need to see what she does when no one's watching." I warned him, said that kind of test never ends well. But he was past listening. The plan? He'd text Dana, tell her he was heading out of town for a weekend gig with his cousin. Then, 2 nights later, he'd show up unannounced, flowers in hand, expecting to catch her red-handed or prove himself a fool. Only she didn't show. Someone else did. It was a Friday night, cold air hanging low like fog over the gravel. Ricky rented a little cabin on the outskirts, one of those cheap ones with a fake fireplace and plastic blinds. He had hidden a camera in the corner, behind a stuffed buck's head, aimed straight at the couch. But at 7 o'clock sharp, the knock came, and it wasn't Dana. It was her mama, Marlene. Gray hair pulled tight, lips painted like she was still trying to be 35. She stepped in slow, looked around, then sat down without a word. Didn't flinch at the camera. Didn't ask why Ricky looked so confused. Just crossed her legs and said, "So you wanted the truth?" Marlene lit a cigarette without asking, like she owned the air between them. Ricky just stood there, still holding the bouquet like a dope. Lilies and baby's breath dangling from his fingers like wilted intentions. "You were expecting Dana," she said, tapping ash into a coffee mug that wasn't hers. "But she's not coming." Ricky's jaw tensed. "Why?" She shrugged, took a long drag. "Because she's not the one you needed to see tonight." Now I know Ricky. For all his paranoia, he ain't rude. But right then, something cracked behind his eyes. He tossed the flowers onto the coffee table like they'd burned him. "This some kind of joke?" he asked. "She send you to what, mess with me? Test me back?" Marlene leaned forward, elbows on knees. "No, sweetheart. This ain't a game. You think you're clever, setting traps for people. But you ain't the only one watching." That got his attention. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. Thick, taped shut, stained at the edges. Slid it across the table. "What's this?" Ricky asked. "Open it." He didn't. Not yet. Just stared at it like it might explode. Marlene went on, her voice lower now. "You want to know if Dana's loyal? Fine. But what about you, Ricky? You loyal to the version of her you made up in that head of yours? Or the real woman who's been biting her tongue for 10 months just to keep the peace?" Ricky's fists clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about." She smiled. Not kindly. "Boy, I've seen men like you my whole life. You want honesty, but only if it flatters you. You want truth, but only if it don't hurt. Dana loves you. She does. But you were never gonna believe that, were you?" Still, he didn't open the envelope. So she stood up, slow and deliberate. Walked to the door, her hand on the knob. She paused and said something I'll never forget. "You don't test love, Ricky. You live it. Or you lose it." Then she was gone. Just like that. Ricky stared at that envelope for a long, long time. When he finally opened it, what was inside knocked the wind clean out of him. The flap tore open slow, like he was afraid of what might crawl out. Inside, Ricky found photographs. Dozens of them. Some recent, some old, all sharp enough to cut. The first few were innocent enough. Dana at work, hair pulled back, serving coffee with that tired gray she wore like a uniform. Dana helping a stray dog into the backseat of her car. Dana laughing with a kid outside a thrift store, a little boy with red sneakers and sticky fingers. But then the photos changed. Dana sitting in a booth at Lou's Diner, across from a man Ricky didn't recognize. Tall, balding, mid-40s, suit jacket too nice for this town. She was smiling, leaning in, hand resting just an inch too close. Another photo. Same guy, different day. This time, Dana's hand on his arm. Then one that made Ricky's chest seize, her and the man standing behind the diner, him holding her waist, her laughing. Head thrown back like she hadn't laughed that way in months. A note was paperclipped to that one. You wanted the truth. This is the part you don't get to control. Ricky stood up so fast the chair clattered back. He paced, jaw clenched, muttering curses under his breath. He wanted to believe it was fake. Set up. Twisted somehow. But the timestamps were there. The diner dates matched the nights she'd said she was with her girls. The handwriting on the note, it was Dana's. No doubt about it. There was more in the envelope. A folded letter, written on the back of a restaurant menu. Ricky's fingers trembled as he opened it. Ricky, I didn't send my mother. She came on her own. She knew what you were planning. She found the texts, the camera, the lies. And she told me not to come. Said if you were willing to trick me like that, I owed you nothing. But I couldn't leave it unsaid. That man in the photos? His name's Wes. He's my cousin. My mother's nephew from her side. He came to help with Grandma's estate. You never asked. You just assumed. And maybe that says everything. I loved you. But I'm done proving it. Ricky dropped the letter like it burned. The truth always leaves scars when you fight it long enough. He sat back down, stared at the cold fireplace, and whispered something only the camera caught. What have I done? Ricky didn't sleep that night. He sat on the cabin floor, back against the couch, photos scattered around him like broken glass. He read the letter a dozen times, each pass cutting deeper. Every moment he questioned Dana now came back warped, like watching a movie backwards and realizing the villain was him all along. At dawn, he packed everything into his shoebox and drove to her apartment. Didn't call. Didn't knock. Just left the box on her porch with a note. You were right. I didn't trust what was real. I'm sorry. Then he left. Drove until the gaslight blinked. Ended up parked behind the old rail yard. Same place he used to drink beers and watch trains as a kid. That place where nothing moved fast enough to hurt you. A few days passed. No response. Word got around town, small towns don't keep secrets long. Folks whispered at the diner. Said Ricky lost his girl playing mind games. Said Marlene had marched into that cabin like a sheriff with a truth warrant. Dana? She went quiet. Quit her job at the Rusty Barrel. Moved in with her cousin Wes for a bit. Yeah, the same guy Ricky thought was her secret lover. Turns out he was helping her sort her grandmother's house, just like she said. A man with a good heart and a patient smile, who never once made Ricky feel small. 2 weeks later, Ricky found himself at my place again, this time without the swagger, without the beer. Just a man with sunken eyes and a 1,000-yard stare. I thought love meant control, he said. Meant testing if it could survive a fire. But all I did was light the match and act surprised when everything burned. I didn't say much. Just listened. Sometimes that's all a man needs when he's got nothing left to defend. Before he left, he looked back and asked, You think I'll ever get a chance to make it right? I told him the truth. Some people don't come back after the fire, Ricky. Some plant new gardens where the ashes fell. He nodded like he already knew. It came on a Wednesday. Rain dripped steady off the gutters, and Ricky was sitting at the kitchen table with a half-burnt grilled cheese when the mail slid through the slot. No return address. Just his name in that same cursive he used to trace on her shoulder with a fingertip. Inside was a single page. Ricky, I wasn't going to write. I thought silence would be louder. But the box you left it hurt. Because it showed me you finally saw it. Saw me. I kept asking myself why I waited so long to leave. The truth? I wanted to believe the doubt in your eyes came from love. That you questioned me because you cared too much. But love isn't surveillance. Love doesn't need cameras. Love shows up, messy, honest, terrified, and says, I'm scared, but I trust you anyway. You never asked me what I needed. You asked what I was hiding. And I wasn't hiding anything, Ricky. I was carrying everything. Your doubts, your tests, your fear that I'd be like the others. I'm not them. But you became someone else trying to protect yourself from ghosts. So no, I don't hate you. I just love myself enough now to say, I'm done being someone's test. There was no signature. No postscript. No, maybe someday. Just that. Ricky read it twice. 3 times. then folded it with trembling hands and placed it in the same shoebox where he'd kept every photo, every scrap of her handwriting, even the movie tickets from their first date. And for the first time in weeks, he cried. Not for Dana, but for the man he could have been, if he'd only trusted her before it was too late. A week after the letter, Ricky did something nobody expected. He showed up at Marlene's house. It was a Saturday morning, just after sunrise. Dew still clinging to the lawn. Marlene answered the door in a robe, mug of black coffee in one hand and a raised eyebrow that could slice a man clean in two. Well, well, she said. Look who finally brought his tail to the porch. Ricky didn't flinch, didn't speak, not right away. Just pulled something from his coat, that shoebox. The one with the photos, the letters, the guilt. I need to give this to her, he said. Even if she never opens it. Even if it ends up in a trash bin. I need to leave it where it belongs. Marlene studied him. That hard exterior softened, just a hair. She ain't here, she said. She left for Portland. New job, new life. Wes helped her pack. She didn't want to say goodbye. Ricky's breath caught. He looked like he'd taken a gut punch. Can you get it to her, he asked. Marlene took the box, turned it over in her hands like it weighed more than cardboard should. I'll see what I can do. He nodded, turned to go, but paused on the first step. I owe you an apology, he said. Not just for doubting Dana. For thinking a woman like you could be manipulated. You walked into that cabin because you knew I wouldn't listen to her. And you were right. Marlene didn't smile, just nodded once and said, You got one thing right. Took you long enough. Ricky didn't look back as he walked to his truck. Didn't cry. Didn't cuss. He just drove. And for the first time in months, the road felt like it was leading somewhere, not running from something. It arrived on a rainy Tuesday, wrapped in brown paper and sealed tight with blue painter's tape, the kind you use when you're careful. No note. No sender. But Dana knew. She sat on the edge of her bed, fingers running along the worn edges. The tape peeled like old skin. Inside, everything. Photos, yellowing at the corners. The letter she'd written him, folded and refolded. And at the very bottom, a new envelope. Her name on the front in Ricky's handwriting. She held it a long while before opening it. Dana, I don't expect you to read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But I need you to know, really know, what I never had the guts to say. You once told me love is a choice, not a feeling. I didn't get it then. I thought love was something you earned, proved, defended. So I built a courtroom in my head and put you on trial. Every day. And still, you showed up. Kind. Steady. Smiling even when I gave you nothing but suspicion. That wasn't love. That was grace. And I failed to see it until I watched you walk away without slamming the door. You didn't burn the bridge. You just stopped crossing it. I don't ask for another chance. I don't deserve one. But I hope someday you remember me not as the boy who doubted you, but as the man who finally understood. Thank you for loving me when I didn't know how to be loved. Thank you for leaving when I needed to be alone with my reflection. I'll carry the weight of your silence and the echo of your laughter. Always. Ricky. Dana folded the letter gently. No tears. Just a breath. Deep and clean, like spring air after the storms passed. She didn't write back, but she kept the letter. Not for him. For herself. To remember the line between love and loyalty. Between being chosen and being tested. 3 months passed. Ricky didn't date. Didn't drink. Didn't dodge. He worked, fixed cars, paid rent, and kept his nose clean. But under the hood of that new routine was a man scraping rust off something deeper. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Most nights, he drove out to the lake. Parked on the edge of that gravel road where the water looked like oil under moonlight. He'd sit on the hood of his truck and just be. Sometimes he'd talk out loud to no one, like Dana might hear it carried on the wind. One night, though, something different happened. He met a stranger. Old man. Wrinkled face, thick gray beard, wore a flannel shirt with buttons that didn't match. Pulled up beside Ricky in a dented Buick, fishing poles sticking out the back window. You mind if I join? The man asked, nodding at the shoreline. Ricky shrugged. Free country. The old man cast a line without bait. Just let it sit there in the ripples. After a while, he said, You look like a man who's lost something. Ricky chuckled, dry and low. You got good eyes. The man didn't look away from the water. You try finding it? Ricky nodded. Too late. A long pause. Then, ain't about late. It's about different. Ricky raised an eyebrow. What's that mean? The man reeled in nothing. Smiled at it. You're looking for the same thing you lost. Problem is, time changed it. Changed you too. So maybe what you find next ain't what you lost. It's what you needed all along. Ricky didn't answer, but those words stuck like gravel in a boot. That night, back home, Ricky did something he hadn't done since Dana left. He looked in the mirror. Really looked. And for the first time, he didn't see a man trying to get her back. He saw a man trying to become someone worth keeping. The letter came on a Thursday. Not from Dana. From her cousin Wes. Typed, clean. Envelope sealed with a gold sticker like it was some kind of formal invite. But it wasn't a wedding. Or a warning. It was a chance. Ricky, Dana's doing well. She doesn't know I'm writing. Might be mad if she finds out. But I've seen how you've changed. She's not blind to it, either. She reads the paper. Saw your name in that op-ed about the community auto project. She asked if it was that Ricky. I said it was. Then she asked nothing else. So here's the thing. She's hosting a community night next Friday at the Portland shelter. Fundraiser. Food. Music. The works. I'm not saying show up with roses. I'm saying show up. As the man you're becoming. No promises. Just presence. If you're ready to be seen, not forgiven, not excused, just seen, then maybe it's time. Ricky stared at the letter until his coffee went cold. He didn't call. Didn't write. He packed a small bag, fueled up the truck, and left before sunrise the next morning. Took the scenic route. Windows down. Music off. Just the hum of tires and the whisper of a second chance he didn't dare name out loud. He got to Portland the day before the event. Booked a cheap motel. Walked the streets. Tried to feel the city in his bones. Every stranger's face reminded him of her in fragments. The waitress's laugh, the barista's cadence, the woman at the bus stop with a book tucked under one arm like armor. He didn't sleep much that night. Too busy wondering if showing up was brave or selfish. Too busy asking himself one quiet question. Am I doing this for her or for me? The shelter was tucked between a laundromat and a tax office, brick building with chipped paint and warm lights in the windows. Ricky parked 2 blocks away. His palms were sweating. His heart beating like it was trying to escape. He stood across the street for a good 10 minutes, watching people file in. Old ladies with covered dishes. Kids in puffy jackets. Couples with arms locked and easy smiles. Then he saw her. Dana. Hair tied back, sleeves rolled up, apron dusted with flour. She was setting out trays of cornbread and brisket like she was born doing it. Smiling, laughing, but different now. Steadier. Calmer. Like life had taught her how to carry her own weight, and maybe someone else's too. Ricky almost turned around. But then the old man's words came back. What you find next ain't what you lost, it's what you needed all along. So he crossed the street. Walked through those doors like he belonged to the place, though every nerve in his body screamed otherwise. Inside, the smell of food and cheap punch. Kids running. Music playing from a battered speaker. Folks shaking hands and trading smiles. And Dana, standing behind a folding table, slicing cake. She saw him. Didn't smile. Didn't frown. Just paused. Knife in hand. Breath caught mid-chest. Then she nodded. Once. Subtle. Like she knew this moment might come, but hadn't figured out how to feel about it yet. Ricky didn't move closer. He just walked to the sign-up sheet at the door, grabbed a pen, and scrawled his name under Volunteer Cleanup Crew. Then he rolled up his sleeves and started stacking chairs. He didn't speak to her that night. Didn't ask for a word, a glance, or a favor. He just worked. Quiet. Steady. Unassuming. And when it was over, when the tables were folded and the lights clicked off one by one, Dana walked past him at the door. She paused and placed a sticky note in his hand. Then she left. Ricky unfolded it in the dark parking lot. It said, "Same time next week?" 1 week later, Ricky showed up 10 minutes early. Same shelter. Same folding tables. Different man. He wore clean jeans, a button-up, and brought a box of donuts for the crew. Nothing flashy. Just a gesture, quiet, kind, deliberate. Dana was already there. No apron this time. Just a soft blue sweater and the faintest trace of surprise in her eyes when she saw him. "Didn't think you'd come back," she said, her voice even. Ricky offered a half smile. "Didn't think I'd be welcome. You weren't invited. You volunteered." It wasn't cold. Just honest. They worked side by side for hours, setting up cots, sorting donated coats, laughing once or twice over a mismatched sock pile. But they didn't talk about it. Not the letter. Not the shoebox. Not the test that shattered it all. Around dusk, she stepped outside for air. Ricky followed a minute later, stood a few feet off, hands in pockets, watching the sky bruise into twilight. She spoke first. You know, when I saw your name on that sheet, I thought it was a mistake. Some ghost of who you used to be. He nodded. Some days, I still feel like one. Dana looked at him then. Not with anger. Not even sadness. Just a quiet curiosity. What changed? She asked. I stopped trying to fix what broke, he said. Started trying to build something new. Even if it's just for myself. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I'm not here for romance, Ricky. I know. I'm not here to make you feel better about the past. I wouldn't ask you to. Silence. Then she said the one thing that opened a new door. But I'm here. And so are you. So maybe that's enough for now. He nodded again, slower this time. And that night, for the first time in a long time, they didn't fall into silence out of fear. They stood in it, together, without needing to fill it. 3 months passed. No big speeches. No grand gestures. Just two people showing up every Friday to sweep floors, serve meals, fold blankets, and sometimes, talk. The town stopped whispering. The shelter started thriving. And Ricky? He kept building. He taught kids how to fix bicycles. Donated half his weekend jobs to a local food pantry. Wrote apology letters he never mailed, to Dana's father, to himself, to the man he used to be. And Dana? She started trusting silence again. Started laughing more. Started staying 5 minutes longer after cleanup. 10. Then a whole hour, just sitting on the steps with Ricky, talking about things that had nothing to do with heartbreak. One night, under the glow of a flickering street lamp, she handed him a thermos of coffee and said, You know, I don't think you were a bad man. Ricky looked at her, brow furrowed. I think, she continued, you were just afraid you couldn't be good without control. But you're learning now. He didn't speak. Just took a sip. Let it warm him. That winter, Ricky turned 30. Dana brought a pie to the shelter, pecan, homemade, and stuck a candle in the middle. Make a wish, she said. I already got what I didn't deserve, he replied. She smiled. And that was the first time she touched his hand again. They didn't fall back into love. They grew into something different. Slower. Softer. Wiser. Some nights, they walked the city, hands not always touching, but never far. Other nights, they parted with nothing more than a nod and a shared look that said, We're still here. And maybe that was the real miracle. Not reunion, but recognition. The kind that says, I see you now. And I'll walk beside you, as far as this road will let me.